Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com, a Legacy Open in Baltimore, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller here with Chris VanMeter, Team Card Hoarder's Own.
Yes.
Now, you've been spending a lot of time on the West Coast, but you've been making it out to some more events, so you're back here in the sideboard. Now, if anyone has seen your Twitter lately, you had the kind of Eldrazi beard thing going, but you're playing an Eldrazi deck today that we saw kind of pop up at Eternal Weekend, and now you're piloting here your X1.
Yeah, I'm currently X1, no buys anymore, so we're doing it the hard way. Currently have a loss to Max McVitie playing Infect, where I lost the die roll and had Chalice for one on turn one, but still no good because just played a closer elf.
Yeah.
But Infect felt like a pretty tough matchup. Everything else has been pretty interactive and fun. So far I beat Miracles and Sneak and Show, so we're attacking all sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, taking care of all comers from all spectrums. Now, of course, you kind of played around with the colorless Eldrazi build, that we had and has been around since the first real Legacy Open since Oath of the Gatewatch.
Yeah.
Here, though, we were playing just, it's called Jeskai, even though the creatures with the color symbols are devoid.
Yes.
We'll give it a pass for now.
For now, yeah. It's Jeskai because you have Eldrazi Obligator, Eldrazi Displacer, and Drowner of Hope. Even though they require colored mana in their casting costs, they're still technically devoid and colorless, so you get the benefit from Ayabugan and Eldrazi Temple to play them on the cheap. And it's kind of cool that you can use the colored mana from Cavern of Souls to still make them uncounterable. So
right.
Nice.
On top of that, we get to use all-stars like Aether Hub out of Kaladesh,
yes.
And of course Corrupted Crossroads here as well to allow you play all of these cards.
Yeah, they're both of those are kind of like quad lands, I guess, since it gives me all of the colors of mana. They even have Dismember in the deck, so technically it is 4 colors. But it will give you my colored mana for the handful of cards that need it, but also give you true colorless mana to be able to cast Dawn Seer and Reality Smasher, which are two of the big heavy hitters. Aether Hub in particular has been pretty good so far. I do like it better than Tendo Icebridge. Only because, Tendo is better against Blood Moon because it still enters the battlefield with the counter on it under a Blood Moon, even though you can't use it, whereas Aether Hub just doesn't trigger at all. But Hub is much better against Wasteland, and I felt like I was going to see more Wastelands from Death and Taxes than Blood Moons out of the decks that I played. Right,
because you'll save the energy and can use it for a future Aether Hub, and therefore get more usages out of it later on in the game.
If I need it. Honestly, I think it's splitting hairs.
Sure.
I have 4 Aether Hubs, and I don't own 4 Tendos, and that actually went into the consideration of which one to play.
Hey, sometimes card availability is a real thing.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go over the deck here. We've seen, kind of the shell of this, the mainstays of the Eldrazi deck. Thought-Knot Seer, Reality Smasher. These cards aren't going anywhere. And then, of course, you kind of have the more aggressive build with Eldrazi Mimic and the Endless One here at the beginning of the curve.
Yeah, those are what allows you to have the super explosive draw, and they're very degenerate with Ayabugan, the card that we saw get banned in Modern.
Sure.
So this particular build doesn't have City of Traders. So things like Chalice in the Void on turn 1 isn't going to happen as often, but we still have 4 Ancient Tomb, 4 Eldrazi Temple, and 3 Ayabugan. So we're still casting Mimic and Endless One for 2 on turn 1, and then playing Thought-Knot Seer on turn 2 pretty often, which is exactly what you want to do.
Right. Being able to curve into the super powerful creatures is good. And then having Chalice, sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, but when you have it, the matchups where it's good, and that's where you're kind of leaning on it anyway.
There are a lot of decks that just actually can't beat a Chalice on one. The majority of the Delver variants, especially ones that don't have access to Abrupt Decay, have a very hard time beating Chalice. In fact, I played Temur Delver earlier today, and was able to land a Chalice on one in the mid game, which cut off the rest of his deck. But he had a bunch of Tarmogoyfs, and I had a bunch of Thought-Knot Seers, so we really couldn't do anything in combat. And then I found an Eldrazi Displacer, tapped his team down and won. But Chalice of the Void, there's some decks that it's very good against. And there's even, I played Miracles on camera earlier today and was able to utilize it to shut off Swords to Plowshares when I was on the draw. So I wasn't able to stop him from playing his top, but I could shut off his card selection from Brainstorm, Swords to Plowshares for spot removal, and then I knew that all I had to do was slog through all of the Terminuses that he had in his deck.
Sure.
And eventually I was able to win.
Okay, let's go over the colored cards. Displacer obviously is just insane with what your deck's doing. Drowner of Hope has earned its spot just due to its ability to work with the Displacer. But the red splash here for the Obligator. Now, obviously it has haste, but are you stealing big creatures with this? Is this just like a get you out of the big monster decks, or?
So I haven't yet. but it does have that potential, being able to take like a 4 or 5 Tarmogoyf that they thought would block and then kill them, because you're getting +3 damage from the Obligator. It's also very good if they, show and tell in an Emrakul, and you get to put in like an Eldrazi Temple, and the next turn go to 5 mana, take it and kill them. All that stuff is pretty sweet. But I have used it quite a few times this game, or this tournament, to give my own creatures haste, because it doesn't. You don't have to target only an opponent's creatures. So against that same Miracles match, I didn't play an Obligator to shorten my clock for a turn, because I didn't want to play into his only out of find another Terminus. And then the following turn, I found Thought-Knot Seer, which was the perfect card. So I could look at his card, look at his hand, take the card that I want to get rid of, and then give my Thought-Knot Seer haste and kill him.
Yeah.
So being able to give your own creatures haste is extremely important.
Yeah, it has a lot more utility when you realize it can kind of hit your own creatures than just stealing theirs.
Yep. And if you have an Eldrazi or an Ayavuga on the battlefield, it literally just costs 1 mana. So a 3/1 haster for 1 mana that doesn't die is a very good spark element.
Dismember and Jet, along with Warping Whales, kind of your and Thorn of Amethyst is your disruption/removal packages. How'd you kind of decide you want 2 of these?
Well, so there's 3 Warping Whale and 2 Dismember in the deck, and the 4th Warping Whale on the sideboard, and it has just been awesome. Like, it can give you a threat when you need it. It can give you a mana when you need it, so you can surprise into a Reality Smasher on a turn, or even like GTA Equip or play a Drowner. And it counters sorceries, which is exactly what you want to counter. Break up somebody's card filter by hitting a Ponder. You can hit a Terminus, which is really important. You can also hit Show and Tell and cards like Infernal Tutor out of Storm, which is very, very good.
Right, definitely gives you game against the unfair decks that you're not just shutting out completely with Chalice.
Yeah, and it's not just dead, because it also exiles creatures with power toughness equal to 1. Deathrite Shaman, Young Pyromancer, the front side of Delver of Secrets. Those are all some pretty nice
all
cards.
the infect creatures.
Yeah, all the infect creatures. The card is just, it amazes me how good it is in Legacy as compared to the other formats where it's just not all that stand out.
Okay, let's take a look at the sideboard here. You've got kind of your extra pieces of most of the main deck cards, but then your 4 of here, Leyline of the Void, just the cleanest way to fight graveyards out of this deck.
Yeah, it's just the cleanest way to fight graveyards. It's very, very good. A lot of decks like Reanimator, which is starting to surge in popularity again, they will have access to like Abrupt Decay out of the sideboard to try and get rid of like Grafdigger's Cage or Rest in Peace, and it cannot hit Leyline of the Void, which is pretty sweet. And it also helps to solidify the Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth that's in the sideboard. I like to bring that in as a 25th land against decks that I expect to try and wasteland me, or decks that are going to deal a lot of damage to me, and I want the potential to turn off my Ancient Tomb from dealing damage to myself. But it also just gives me black mana so that I can hard cast Leyline of the Void in the mid game if I need to.
Right, yeah, that's a big issue with a lot of the decks that try to splash Leyline, is that they draw it and they can never play it. But you actually have enough mana, and with the Urborgs, you can actually play it if you reach the point in the game where you need to.
Yeah, between Urborg and Aetherhawk.
All is Dust, this is kind of your answer to the stuff that kind of shuts you down, like Moat and kind of hard answers like that.
Yeah, I think that it could switch between All is Dust and Ratchet Bomb. I think Ratchet Bomb is just fine. In fact, I kind of wish that I would have had Ratchet Bomb for this tournament, but I have used All is Dust against Miracles just as a 7-mana kill your Monastery Mentor, which sometimes is good enough because that card can just take the game away. But it does give you an answer to like Moat, back to basics. Technically, you can cast it if they have Blood Moon. So it does give you an answer to those troublesome permanents, even though it takes a while.
All right, then we got some other colorless cards here. Pithing Needle, Engineered Relic of Progenitus, and a Batterskull.
Yeah, Batterskull is just a great threat. It's very sticky. It's very good against like Burn or against any of the aggressive decks. Relic, just to complement the Leyline of the Void. And Pithing Needle is just slowly becoming my favorite sideboard card in Legacy, and I kind of wish that I had two. You can use it in a lot of situations, especially against unfair decks like Sneak and Show, but it's also just very, very good against Miracles and Death and Taxes, which are both pretty big parts in the meta.
All right, those decks, Miracles, of course, has been dominant for a while, but Death and Taxes has definitely seen an uptick thanks to the Conspiracy cards and all the new cards that are coming for that deck.
Yeah, which is actually one of the reasons I decided to play this deck this weekend. I was thinking about playing Death and Taxes, trying to find the Conspiracy cards for it, but this deck just does not get hurt by Sanctum Prelate very much, and I feel like this deck has a pretty decent Death and Taxes matchup, which is one of the reasons I decided to play it this weekend.
All right, well, the deck looks great. The Eldrazi promoter himself says it's good. So any words of wisdom or any, how the deck's going or anything you might want to change going forward?
I think I do want to put like one City of Traders in there. One or two City of Traders. I'm not sure where to find the room for it. Maybe the main deck Drowner should just not be there. and you can play something else, and that makes it easier to cut some colored sources. So maybe you cut like a Crossroads and Aether Hub, or two of one of them, instead of just one and one. But I do want to maximize the chance to play Chalice or Thorn of Amethyst on turn 1.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks for giving us the deck here. The deck looks awesome. It had a lot of success at Eternal Weekend. Hopefully you can kind of replicate that.
I would like a top of that.
For CVM, I'm Nick Miller in the sideboard. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Baltimore.